Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday night, what we are now calling our Fight the Fascism segment, where we're going to focus on topics pretty much discussing all of the different types of fascism that are occurring right underneath our noses. And we don't think they're being talked about enough. So we're going to completely focus on those type of topics every Tuesday night from now on. So welcome. We are your hosts. I'm Jeremy Baker. With me, as always, is Mike Foligno. How are you, Mike?
Good. Excited for Fascism Tuesdays. I think that's the appropriate way to say that.
Yeah, right. I mean, how do you even? It's just such a harsh topic to talk about, but it is occurring so much that it
not even
needs to be. And they're starting to use the F word on corporate media now. The word fascism has worked its way. Well, some networks do. Of course, Fox News just praises everything everybody does.
They're
we will talk
promoting
about
fascism.
it here. Right. And I think the reason we want to talk about it is because a lot of this stuff goes on in the shadows behind the scenes. And a lot of times you really don't hear about it unless they screw up and make headlines like they have recently.
Which they're doing often now.
Right. And one of those groups making headlines currently, of course, is Moms for Liberty.
Yay.
So what we are very happy to do and have back on the show, the founder of Stop Moms for Liberty, Liz Mikitarian. So welcome back, Liz.
Yay.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Good. Excited to have you back on. And so I'm always like a kid at Christmas when you come on.
Oh.
I get all excited.
Wait a minute. Like, does that mean I look like Santa Claus?
No, of course not.
Well, we all know there's only one acceptable image of Santa Claus, right? Because people get very.
That's a whole nother show, Mike.
Right? Yeah, getting enraged over fictional characters is a new one. It's definitely a new one. So we have a lot to talk about with what's going on.
Sure do.
Yeah, this some of this stuff is so disheartening. In this first part of this, the Fox Nation apparently is giving out awards for people that are labeled extremist groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yes.
I don't even understand it. It almost breaks my brain in half to try and think about this actually happening on cable television. I mean, this is Fox Nation we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is their Twitter page. And you know, this is we should call it. They got the Most Valuable Patriot of 2023 award, which we would like to call the Wolf in Sheep's Clothing Award. We feel like it's a much more appropriate title.
Well, here's a question, Liz. I mean, you're as an educator, you value the meaning of words and the weight that they carry. Does the word patriot mean anything anymore, or has there been a segment of the population that has just abused it to the point of just giving up and dying?
No, I think we need to reclaim the word patriot.
Yes, thank you.
Patriot to me means our parents who fought in wars, our brothers and sisters who have fought in wars. Yep. Those are patriots. This is not what we're seeing out of some of these folks that are so extreme in their beliefs. They think this is their country. Our side of things realizes that it's not our country, just ours. It's inclusive of everyone. That's right. The whole big, wonderful world, right?
Not that complicated.
So that's the stark difference, is that their whole concept of patriotism is, servitude to a leader. And that's not American. Yep. We have never been a nation that, bowed down to some kind of tyrannical leader.
Didn't we fight a war about that? I vaguely remember reading in school. I mean, nowadays when they ban history, who knows what they're taught? But there was a point where we used to learn that we fought a war so that we could govern ourselves and represent ourselves and the people who work hard to build our own country.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's the discussion of who does so that we can have a country and we can rule. And their we seems to be very different and very exclusionary at this point.
Their and we so is not you and me and everyone else.
I look at the concept of patriotism the same that I look at our flag, the same that I look at our Star Spangled Banner.
Yes.
They can't have those things. Those things are American. And frankly, Americans have not been the nation where, people were as much anyway, afraid to go out on the streets because of some tyrannical leaders coming after us.
Yep.
Right.
You know, we appreciate the freedom that true patriots have gotten into this country. And these people, you know, they were led by Trump into this way of thinking that they're the only ones that matter. And he was going to be their savior. And then the religious piece of that all came into play. So that's why we are at the place that we are. And it is ironic that Fox News, of all the news stations that is so exclusionary, would do an award labeled after something that is fundamentally American. And they could give it to people that are actually fighting against all the liberties in our country under the guise of, oh, you know, they think they're protecting the children. So
I'm glad
I'm going to try real hard tonight not to be angry, because I've been angry for the last few days.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Well, let's channel that into something good.
I'm actually glad you brought that up, though, because my father, and I honestly, I'm glad my father's not alive to see what's going on with this country, because he fought in Vietnam and Desert Storm, did 22 years in the Army. You know what I mean? Fought for freedom, I guess you say. Just to see for this, I mean, that's not what he fought for. And like our grandparents did not fight in World War II against the Nazis just to have that type of stuff happening on American soil and people openly supporting it. It's absolutely
my dad actually fought against the Nazis. My dad was in World War II. He did. And he didn't do what he did for this. And he's long since passed away, and but still obviously a big piece of my life. And it just irks me. And yet they're the first ones to, do the wrong things, it seems, that are being uncovered.
Yeah.
And it's time that the hypocrisy and the lies do get uncovered. And I'm so glad, because everything that they do, every move that they make, it's making my job a little bit easier.
Yeah, they're really not good at the whole taking over thing. I mean, you're supposed to do that stuff behind closed doors, in the shadows. You're supposed to work the angles in the back alleys, and they are just like putting it out there that their bigotry, their hatred, their entitlement, their privilege, their, fascism, if you will, just because you wear what someone might say is nice mom clothes doesn't mean you can't be a fascist. And I don't know what that means, but my point is they're trying to paint this. I guess they're trying to paint this image that they're these helpless, kind, just moms, and everyone loves moms. Well, you know what? There are some good moms. There are some bad moms. And I'm not talking about how they parent their kids. I'm talking about what they're trying to do by telling everyone else how to parent their kids.
And Liz, you were talking about, when we were watching the videos, going through the videos earlier, and actually it's one of the videos we're not using, about a lot of these moms that are speaking at these what do you call it, parent teacher things or conferences or whatever, are paid employees by Moms for Liberty.
Oh, absolutely.
They're not speaking out of in the, you know what I mean? They're they're not concerned parents. They just want to impose their will on everybody.
They found their grip.
But I think they're losing. I mean, well, now they're losing steam because of the recent scandal. True. And then now I read earlier, I think of Pennsylvania. I saw a video of Pennsylvania chapter has decided to break away from Moms for Liberty. And once that starts to happen, because the only thing that really gives Moms for Liberty is any power is the money. Also
the cohesion. If they're starting to splinter, they have no control over their own group anymore. They can't coordinate their attacks. All that large national funding and national attention is going to start getting confused, because they're not going to start covering every little group that splinters off, and suddenly no one's going to bother with them anymore.
Yeah. I've been told that they're not very philanthropic down to the local group level. I don't have any evidence of that, but somebody that attended their conference overheard some of their, more localized leadership talking about, gee, I wish they would come and support, XYZ chapter. So, not only they don't have control, but I also think that they might not be as supportive as they could have been in this development of the structure. And frankly, that group is probably like, not only do you not support us, but now you're making us look bad. So I don't know what's going to transpire out of this, because I'm sure they won't be able to use the same branding as Moms for Liberty, because I'm sure they've got that all locked
sure it's
and trademarked and all that. That's all it is a giant grift. Yeah,
of course.
So let me play this video, because they're so proud of themselves to get, and I can't believe Fox is participating in something like this. To me, this shows two things. One, they're just so blatantly obvious about it. They don't care. They're putting it in everybody's face. And two, Fox News is willing to perpetuate this nonsense because during the award, it shows a video that they are so damn proud of being labeled an extremist group. But and how? All right, that's my question to you. How do you know how hard? I mean, it's got to be pretty difficult to be labeled an extremist group by the SPLC. I can't imagine they just go around going, "Oh, they said they had a Hitler quote in their newsletter. They're
that's it
now."
No,
that's not how it works. You know, it's
Southern Poverty worked long and hard on this in conjunction with many, many, many people. I won't say who, across the country that were feeding them the information of what was actually happening. Exactly. And they built, a really untouchable pool of evidence that allowed them to make that designation. And although a lot of us were saying, oh, just go straight for the hate group designation, they have requirements of how to, label certain groups. And so that's kind of a mixed bag too, because they're actually on the Southern Poverty's website under some drop-down menus of hate
I've seen
groups. So it's kind of a quasi, they're in between hate group and extremist group. But we have tried to call them extremist group because that is the official label.
It's interesting because it's almost like, and I'll say our side, is trying to be careful and cautious. And yet again, the power of words mean something. Yes, they are a hate group. But until you can really fit the metrics to prove that they are, to really show what your criteria are, you can't just use labels, almost like the right does with, I don't know, grooming, rumors, all that. They just throw words around so that they can hope that they could change minds in a negative way to get them to be on their side so they could promote their agenda. Meanwhile, we're over here trying to do it the right way to be able to back it up with receipts that they don't even care about because they're the type of people that skip out on the bill. So
that's why I said the Republican Party's motto for next year should be "Do what I say, not what I do." And just
all they do.
I don't know. They all seem to be doing stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even have to differentiate anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. They want you to do what they say, do one thing, but then they're doing something exactly the opposite on the other end. So it's just kind of the hypocrisy is
which honestly
unbelievable.
This has always been a portion of politics, right? Forever and ever and ever. But what's different now is that these things are impactful on the citizens and in particular on children that are, in our case, in the school system. And that's why so many people are paying attention. There are more people going to school board meetings now than in my entire career.
Probably ever in history.
It's because they see that, wait a minute, what do you mean someone's trying to attack my school or my teachers or, the system as a whole? And people, are just looking at all the evidence that's being put out there, most of which is being produced by that group itself. But they're looking at things and saying, wait a minute, maybe they're not this parents' rights group that they actually have touted themselves to be.
It's really funny.
They're going to the wolf in sheep's clothing where they pretend to be one thing and then they're just so evil. And I hate the fact that they're paid to target children. It drives me absolutely crazy. Before we get into too much more, I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me play this freaking award show thing. And like we talked about, we're not going to glorify this award. We're just going to play it because it's absolutely ridiculous.
It has to be seen to believed, but you don't need to see that much.
It's almost this, and this is on their Twitter page. Like this is a pin.
They're proud.
Oh yeah, they're proud.
And you know what's funny though? They put this to their Twitter page just a few days before that scandal broke out. So the irony is just great too at the same time.
Was founded. I know, they're awesome. Moms for Liberty were founded by two moms who turned their mission of transparency in schools into a movement that was so powerful. They were called domestic terrorists.
Fact one.
Yeah, fact one.
I think it's a sham and they've completely twisted reality.
See, now they're using this like a badge.
But those are all people on our side.
Yes, so they're putting this up in a mocking way. Meanwhile, we're looking at this like, no, I want to see more of it.
They're making fun of us because we oppose them. Is what they're doing.
Well,
gee, I wonder if they'll go after, that was Megyn Kelly at the end there.
Yep.
And Megyn Kelly was one of their guest speakers at one of their big events. I wonder how that little turn of words is hitting them.
That is such an incestuous group of humans, the right.
Well, and I'm also wondering if they will go after Joy Reid, because Joy Reid has caught on to this story and she's been hitting it hard lately.
I think this latest story with them brought the exact negative type of attention that our side needed to get the people's, because sometimes you have to not sensationalize as in exaggerate or make up like they do. You have to sensationalize by letting people know the truth, by showing the reality, right? If this was a story that they had control of, they would have crafted it, narrowed it, and polished it. We're just like, look at the ugly truth. And they're like, what do we do? How do we lie our way out of this? Oh, God.
Yeah, they don't know what to do. They're scrambling.
Liz, now you did point out one thing in the video. They said 2 moms.
They did.
Now tell us what's going on with that. I'll show the overlay that this is apparently not even true.
Nope, that's not. Yeah, that I'm assuming that the speaker was just handed information from someone in Moms for Liberty to describe them. So I won't fault necessarily the announcer that was leading them in, but this has been a 3-way operation for, I don't know, the very inception, which was in 2021. And Bridget Ziegler's name was on those documents that you actually just showed, and was on there for a while. They're claiming that, oh no, she was immediately removed. No, she wasn't. She may have been removed from that, but she and her husband are what connected Moms for Liberty to the Republican Party. So they can't walk away from that relationship. Christian Ziegler is quoted for saying, oh, great, Moms for Liberty can be the boots on the ground that I needed to prompt, followership of the Republican Party. They can't walk away from this stuff because it's all public. Their documents are public. They can't go out in public and say, oh, we're just 2 innocent moms. Now, fast forward, Bridget is a less role within the actual structure, right? Because she has spent her time in a larger venue of working at the Leadership Institute, which we can also talk about because that's news today. But the third leg is now Marie Roberson, who is also from my county. And she's just merely a political operative. That's all she does. She runs campaigns. So for them to say that there are little moms that are doing all of this, no. Marie and some others just published a whole guide on how to run for election and do this, how to work the data.
That doesn't seem like a group focusing on the kids. It almost seems like a group of people focusing on control.
Yep.
And this aggravates
in their
me too.
Statements. Yeah, it's in their statements that's what they aim to do, is to take over school boards. And I've said publicly, I give them every right in the world to serve in a school board, to be in a seat on a school board. That's part of America. But when they have in their actual mission to take over, to instill a majority, no, I will not support that. That is not democratic.
You know what that is? Fascist.
That would be, you don't say the F word.
Yeah, fascist, the new F word. So as a dad, I just, you know what I mean? I'm actually glad my kids are out of school at this point because they don't have to deal with this. Not only because my daughter is deaf. I had to go through, like, with her special needs the entire time was extremely difficult without the help of fascism within the school district. You know what I mean? Because I'm in Pennsylvania. So we have a lot going on up here. So I'm glad they're out. But not only that, both my kids are gay. And both of my kids are Mexican too. They're Hispanic. So, you know what I mean? And those are all things that they want to marginalize. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't fit into the certain narrative.
Right. They don't want to help all kids. They just want to help white kids. I'll say it on the show. And I don't care if anybody has a problem with it. They don't care about all kids. It's fake. And I know it's not just all white moms, but their overall goal, their underlying goal ties into Project 2025. Like, they want to criminalize the LGBTQ community, make it a crime to be gay or trans. Could you possibly imagine that?
Yes, I've read books about it.
America 2024.
It's called history.
You know
and while all of this,
goal.
while all of this was happening, Jeremy, One of them was part of the LGBTQ community. Hello.
Apparently so.
Well,
yeah.
they love to attract the self-loathing types from all the marginalized groups.
So it's like, how do you demonize even if you know?
Because they are so morally bankrupt that they are willing to throw themselves. You look at someone, and I don't want to stray too far off, but you look at a George Santos who is gay, married, New York, but also says that gay marriage shouldn't be legal and disparages the LGBTQ community. So my point is not so much about George Santos, it is about the caliber of people that they attract, recruit, and put in positions of leadership. It's always hypocrites. It's always people willing to self-deprecate for the higher power, in this case, money, religion, Donald Trump. And the way you do that is you control the population. The first and best way you do that is you control how you educate your children.
Right.
You have to raise a population, a generation of people that are more susceptible to your brand of indoctrination. That's their goal.
They didn't invent this, Mike. They did not
invent this. It's actually a
perfect
segue into our next topic here, which is the infamous Hitler newsletter quote. Which we talked about this before, but it's very much worth talking about again.
It's gross.
Because here's the newsletter, and you can see in the middle left there, he alone who owns the youth gains the future, which is actually an Adolf Hitler quote about grooming the future generations, future children.
Anyone ever heard of Hitler Youth?
In the schools, Hitler Youth. That's where it came from.
Exactly. It's exactly what this is. But they want to talk about indoctrination and they keep saying things like hypersexualizing. Nobody is the ones that want to check kids' genitals. Kids. Like, they're the ones. What public school is hypersexualizing kids?
Well, see, it's
because
funny
they have a book in the library that has a character that has two moms. Right. That's not hypersexualizing. That's just reality.
But these are also
kids about acceptance and being a nice person in the future, and they want to get rid of all that.
These are people who...
Sorry, I get heated too.
No, I know. I remember when I was in school 115,000 years ago, being in health class, and I to this day remember hearing rumbles of people not approving of what's taught in health class.
Right.
They don't believe in education, full stop. But what they really amazingly don't believe in is anything that might break their hold off their children's minds. And if you teach kids about their own sexuality in a way that's healthy, natural, there's nothing wrong with that. But they don't understand the word sexuality and the word porn aren't synonymous. They don't understand that you could teach kids about who they are without showing them porn. Like, they don't understand the difference. They can't
point this out, because apparently the right doesn't grasp this. If a kid reads a book where there's two gay characters, your kid's not going to turn gay for reading the book. I mean,
well, Jeremy, that seems to be one of their fears, honestly.
Yeah,
it's
if you expose kids to something, well, guess what? I was exposed to, a great slam dunker in a book that I read. Can I slam dunk? And no.
But the irony is,
reading about things does not make you that thing. And it's actually an impossibility when it comes to sexual preference.
The way they're looking at it is, again, through the lens that they wear. They know, even if they can't name it, even if they couldn't understand the concept of it, that they are trying to control the media and the knowledge of what goes into their kids and what they want to do to everyone's kids. So they know, or at least they think, that being exposed to certain media could have an effect. The problem is their media is often dangerous, is often shameful, meant to make people feel lesser, break them down. It's kind of a brainwashing situation. So they think that just by exposing kids to the reality of other families, of other orientations, that's going to brainwash them. Now, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, has said that it's scary that the rise of LGBT.
He terrifies me.
There's no rise of people that are becoming gay. There's a rise of people identifying as gay because it's becoming less acceptable for people like a Moms for Liberty group, like a Republican Party, to beat the crap out of their kids and take the gay away by force, which doesn't work. It just makes them want to kill themselves. So
Let me show you this real quick. Okay. So they, of course, denounced the Hitler quote saying, we condemn Adolf Hitler's actions in a dark place humanity. We should not have quoted him in our newsletter and express our deepest apology. However,
like it's an oopsie.
We have the video to prove otherwise. This is their response. That I don't know if they didn't know this was being filmed or didn't. Somebody leaked this.
They care.
It was leaked.
It's just so arrogant and so, like we said, so much entitlement and just so brazen. But here's what they really say behind the closed doors.
There's always a reason why something happens, right? Yes. One of our moms in a newsletter quotes Hitler. Woo! I stand with that mom.
And the amount of people clapping disturbs me. How many people support this bullshit? Excuse my language, but
because they don't understand it. I'm just thinking, my dad was in World War II, right? What if he were sitting in that audience after what he gave of himself? This is a man that walked around with shrapnel in his body for the rest of his life, right? He's gone now, unfortunately. But I mean, he wore, the spoils of war, I guess, or I don't know. I guess it's the opposite of the spoils of war. But he was a victim of war, right? And if he sat in that room and heard them making light of Hitler in any way, shape, or form, I understand why they quoted Hitler. I understood it when they first put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, it wasn't complicated.
And my first thought was, wow, they really should have qualified that one. They're going to hear about it. And they did hear about it. And they should have stuck with that little disclaimer of, we're sorry. But no, then they go on this national platform to stir up their base. I'll call it a base of Moms for Liberty, because it does seem like that. Because they knew that it would be an acceptable thing for her to say on stage. And you heard the cheers.
Instant. Like, passionate, instant. Like, your favorite team in the world just won their league championship. That person who screamed immediately, like, there were several that followed and it grew, but the person, it was like barely, Hitler, woo! Come on. And don't quote me on that, because they're going to cut that video of showing leftists screaming yay for Hitler.
I should show the video, because like I said, I think we talked about it before, like in the 1930s, there was a huge, and I talk about this all the time because history is repeating itself. They're just now called MAGA.
Which is why they want to erase history, because if you erase it, no one can see it coming.
In the 1930s, before World War II broke out, there was a massive American pro-Nazi movement. I have the video to prove it, of people just saluting Hitler, listening to some German guys spout this propaganda on stage like they worshipped, exactly what's happening now. But like I said, now instead of Hitler, it's Donald Trump. And now MAGA is like the Fourth Reich. And that's what it feels like to me. And that's why we're talking about the fascism.
It's really always been here within our country, right? There has
it just kind of went below the radar for a while.
It went bankrupt, I believe, at some point. And their big leader, what was it, David Duke?
David Duke, the Grand Wizard.
Yeah.
Come on, Grand Wizard, get over
yourself. Grand Poopa. And so it got pushed further and further and further away from being acceptable. We were on the right trajectory with that. Hence, 2016, when these folks started hearing, one of the leaders knows what we're talking about. And so they started to, I call it, take the lid off the trash can, but they started to come out from under the rocks. And the true...
No, Liz.
No, we lost Liz. Hold on. She's coming back on.
Got her.
She's coming. I got it. All right. She's back. Sorry about that, guys.
They're trying to silence you, Liz. They are trying to silence you.
Don't silence me. Free speech. Free speech. I was talking about Charlottesville, and that's when it really raised its ugly head in this country. And the immediate response from everyone in public office should have been to totally put that down and totally stop that. But you saw what happened. There are good people in that group.
They had torches.
From Trump. So, then that fueled the next chapter and the next chapter and the next chapter. You saw the kid up in, was it Minnesota, Wisconsin? The one that shot people at Black Lives Matter rallies?
Yeah.
That kid was really indoctrinated.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's not an excuse for him, but it's
talking about
happening.
Kyle Rittenhouse?
Yes.
Well,
It
he's the
is
next
happening.
GOP senator.
He's not looking too good lately.
Whole nother show.
I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah. So, the concept of, it will never happen in this country.
It is happening.
It is happening. When I drive down, I'm not too close, but if I were to drive down the street and go near Disney World, I see the parades, folks. This is not a make-believe thing. This is people in full regalia with Nazi flags, and they happen to be holding DeSantis flags too. I'll let you draw your own coincidental connections there.
Now,
but this is what's happening.
This is the first time the Heritage Foundation has tried to do this to democracy. They actually did implement, I think, almost 2/3 of the policies under Trump that they wanted to, one of which was banning abortion. Hence, we have Roe v. Wade, which we've talked about before.
Right.
This time, they have it so plain. They learned from their mistakes. And this time it is so well mapped out. And we are going to talk about probably, I think it's next week, we're going to read right from Project 2025's playbook. They're 900 page. We're not going to read all 900 pages, but they're 900 page manifesto. And Moms for Liberty is the group of that targets the kids. They're the ones that are going after the Hitler Youth, so to speak.
Yep.
And you've mentioned this before. They're also against public school. Okay, they want to privatize the school system. So,
but they haven't been open about that from the very get-go. They have not been open about that. That's where the money is coming from. It's not because some, big billionaires want better books for kids, or they want, to have, whatever better services. It's not because they want anything better for public schools. Nothing.
It's because it's socialism. One of the first things Congress did, one of the first things the new Congress did, one of the first things they did, and no Democrat would sign it. They tried to somehow, I don't know what it was, a draft or something. It didn't get put into a bill, but they want to denounce socialism across the board. I have a copy of it somewhere that I can bring up on a future episode. And part of that is public school. Public school is a socialistic program.
Anything that is public is socialism in essence, but I don't use that word because they
in basic form
corrupted that word.
No, right, because there's so many different types, but in basic form, it's the government doing something for the people where the people don't have to pay the government back,
which all of us benefit from every single day.
And in Europe, they're thriving under like a capitalist socialist environment. They are thriving. They are surpassing us in so many areas.
And that sounds like you don't love America, Jeremy.
Even freedom. No, we talked about this on a past episode. We are ranked 23rd. You can go to cato.org. The 8th annual.
I don't support cato.org.
Don't you? I'm sorry, but they do a list of the freedoms. Is it far right?
Oh, yes. They go way
Oh my
back.
God.
Yeah.
But it's just as far as freedoms go, we are ranked so low. You just in basic things, not like, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about like in the details, but in basic rankings. So, I didn't know that, but
yeah. Just check it out a little bit more. I just actually, over this whole, they were distributing constitutions to school kids. And I thought, geez, I think my son got a constitution. And I looked it up, and this was years ago that he got his, but he still had it in his room. And it was all the Cato Institute stuff.
Ooh.
But see, that's what I don't understand. If they have the Human Freedom Index is the one I was looking up. It's a specific thing. I would think, though, if it was far right, we would be ranked like #1 in freedom. They would want everybody to think we're the freest country in the world and the best.
Yeah.
But
I won't say don't listen to them. I just don't support them.
No, I'm not talking about all the material, but just I guess I should have specified the Human Freedom Index they do every year. And I've actually dropped 7 spots down to 23rd out of all the countries. So it's disturbing. And it's all because of this fascist implementation of it, because on the state level, they are doing some absolutely horrifying things right now.
They are.
But it's because
Moms
they
for
elected
Liberty
the wrong people.
having them, helping them to get those things done. So
that's what they are, is a facilitating group.
Yeah.
More than they rile them up, point them.
Yeah, you had mentioned all the recent news, and there has been a lot of it related to the connections with Moms for Liberty.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you want to talk about first. There's so much, I get overwhelmed.
So next, we might as well go into the Philadelphia scandal.
Yeah.
Let me play the video for that.
A Philadelphia chapter of the group Moms for Liberty has been relying upon the hard work and, connections of one of their so-called leaders, according to these reports, who also happens to be a registered sex offender who was charged and convicted with aggravated sexual battery of a 14-year-old boy when he was just 25 years
Only the
old.
best people.
The man is a man by the name of Philip Fisher Jr., who is a pastor and faith-based outreach leader for the group's local chapter, and he was convicted in 2012 for aggravated sexual abuse of a 14-year-old boy, according to the Philadelphia Inquirer. Fisher is responsible for connecting the Philadelphia chapter of Moms for Liberty with faith leaders in the area to expand the group.
That's another show.
Well, and here's my spin on that. Moms for Liberty has now disclosed that they have over $2 million, right?
Exactly.
So if they are making these strong connections, particularly one to have their work be filtered out into the faith community, they did not do due diligence. And their response to this whole thing made me sick to my stomach. Yep. Their response was, well, the database must have been wrong.
Yep.
Really? You have a staff and you have $2 million that you could have done a little bit more of a deep dive to see who you were getting in bed with. Pardon the pun. But that's what happened.
See what you did there.
You probably could have found out more with Google than they found out with
I know.
They just found this guy. They're like, oh, he can get us in contact with the people we need to get in contact with.
How did reporters get this story? It's not rocket science.
Yet again,
I mean, really,
even though only because it's applicable to the overall scope of who these people are, you would have thought someone would have done more research on George Santos. My point being, none of these people are actually qualified to do the jobs that they spend so much time saying we can't do, the left can't do. They're so corrupt. We're talking about people who are holding up military promotions that I guarantee you think that all the military leadership does is tell that, okay, guys, fire. They don't understand what strategy is, what tactics are. So we're talking about a bunch of people that rather have the money that they raise or are given used for talking heads at rallies to pretend that they're just ordinary moms, but they're really paid actors. Instead of actually using it to vet the people that they bring into the organization.
Yeah, you have that in several of your clips. They like to, and I've been working in social justice for many, many years before I was ever, kind of on this path of Stop Moms for Liberty. And so I pay attention to the diversity within organizations because I think it speaks volumes for what you believe in. And there was a photograph taken at the Tampa summit, and there were maybe one or two faces other than white female faces in that audience. And that was my first indicator of, wait a minute. They say they're representative of parents and that they're fully inclusive of all parents. Well, where are these parents?
Yeah.
So I started
especially Florida.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
And so I started to look at the kinds of things that they were producing and the statements that were being made. And I did see some faces of color starting to, give messaging and whatnot. I think one was on maybe not Phil Donahue. What's his name? Dr. Phil show.
Donahue.
Phil, I'm really aging myself. I am aging myself. Yeah, that was quite a while ago. And I thought, gee, who are these people? And so I did dig into it. And they're employees of Moms for Liberty. They serve different roles within their structured organization. And I have been really very focused on that as an issue in and of itself, because we pride ourselves to make sure that we have folks in leadership that are representative of all different walks of life and all different kinds of people. And they say they're doing that. And it's just been, my prior work in that is like, are they really? And I'm not seeing it.
You just look at the crowd.
I can't remember how they caught my attention. I can't remember how I thought about this. But this concerned me more as, like I said, as a parent. I mean, if they had their way, I can't imagine what they would absolutely destroy the school.
I know what they would do.
That
Watch
is
The
the goal.
Handmaid's Tale. It's not that complicated.
That is the goal, is to actually drive parents. They've actually stated it. This Keisha King is one of their front faces that they use. And she has called for parents to leave the public school system. So they're not fooling very many people anymore about what their actual agenda is. It is not to improve our school system. It is not to safeguard children. It is to drive people away from X business. And that's what people need to understand. This is all about privatization. And that's been my background.
Well,
I've studied that for 30 years, really. And that's the piece that I think people, even amongst their members, I don't think they truly understand what they have gotten themselves involved in.
And I think, and especially in Florida, because there's been a lot of violence in Florida, but I don't think they understand the consequences of what they're doing, because they're also driving the good educators along with doctors.
Oh, it's horrible.
Because they're driving them out of the state. I think
Which
I
is
just
what
read
they
today,
want.
like Florida currently, because you're in Florida, I just read today, is 46th in the country in SAT scores currently.
Nice, right?
Right. And it's only going to continue to go down because educators, teachers do not get paid enough to deal with school shootings, kids beating the shit out of them for taking their cell phones, and having to deal with groups like Moms for Liberty coming in bitching and moaning because
it's almost as if they've allowed
too much.
It's almost as if there's a deliberate, and I guess this is just all I could say is it's an assumption. I can't make any accusations for real. I don't have any proof of this. But if you start looking at all of it, isn't it almost like they're hoping that people don't want to go to school because they don't feel safe? I mean, they're doing nothing to stop kids getting killed in school. They're trying to make gay kids feel like they're going to get killed in school, even if there's a gun or not. They're trying to make just going to school a miserable experience.
I saw once online
for students and teachers.
I want to say this was in a school.
Well, if there's no teachers,
instead of doing anything about gun violence, like they were building like portable bulletproof walls that
they have walls to pull out
that everybody can hide behind. Like, that's your solution? You want to put kids, you just want to build a bulletproof wall and that's it.
They can hold up the history books.
I will say, Jeremy, that's a better solution than for them to support me as a kindergarten teacher walking around with a gun on my
well,
hip.
yeah, I agree with that. Because that's nonsense. And like a teacher's gonna go head to head.
Yeah, but if they're not gonna fix the problem, we have to take mitigating measures.
Right, it's safety measures. All
right. Let me just point out the obvious. So like a teacher with a gun, okay. You have a guy who runs in there with an AR-15, a maniac ready to lose his life and kill some kids in the process. Do you think that teacher is trained enough to handle a guy with like that? You think that's possible?
Could you hold on while I put this over here?
Right, it's dumb. Okay, maybe in Fantasyland or maybe on a Netflix special, you got an ex-SEAL, teacher who runs out and gets all the bad
Every
guys.
80s movie where they're a teacher.
Right, this is reality. That's not going to happen. That is not a solution. Having teachers with guns is not. That's the dumbest thing.
No, it's not.
You know what's a solution? Educating people enough that crime doesn't actually happen anymore. Not that that's a possibility.
Or promoting propaganda that makes people want to do violence. Like, Jesus.
Well, and I think I might have mentioned this on the last show, but my bottom line is teachers should not have to be the solution to this problem. Period.
No, absolutely.
No matter what. Either the wall you're talking about, society itself has to protect the entire school and wrap our arms around the entire school, and don't let the shooters get in there. However it takes. I've often said, you know what? Call on veterans. I bet veterans would line around a school and they would protect children.
And there are a lot of veterans that are not okay with what the right has become.
Right.
No.
It's just,
But to your point,
anyway, that's a whole nother.
Your words exactly. We got to protect the whole school, not just from violence, but from these moral attacks from Moms for Liberty.
So I want to move on to this whole thing, because like you said, they can't run away from this stuff. They're so brazen and so obvious with it.
It's like one thing after another. So the Proud Boys.
This is the picture. You already knew what I was going to say, didn't you?
I was reading your mind.
Yep, moms. I'll read the right-hand side there. Moms for Liberty. This is what they're saying. Moms for Liberty is in no way affiliated with the Proud Boys and does not condone involvement with the organization. We repudiate hate and violence. I feel like I'm reading it in the right tone.
Yeah, that's funny.
You know what I mean? But you can't run away from that picture. So explain that picture to everybody.
So what do they do? Every time there's a jerk in their midst, they just excise them and pretend that they weren't there in the first place?
So Liz,
I think that might be the strategy. So this is a photograph out of Kentucky, and the woman with the red hair with her head turned, and then the woman behind and actually holding the Proud Boys flags are two Moms for Liberty chapter leaders. And I'm not sure exactly which counties, but yeah. So when these pictures started circulating, you know, somebody in upper echelons at Moms for Liberty went, uh-oh. And so they investigated, and they did find these pictures to be authentic. And so then they put up that little thing that says, oh, and we have removed them. Word has it they haven't even been removed from membership. It's just from those leadership positions.
They need those numbers. They need those dues.
Yes. And as we are seeing is the pattern, they are trying to, like, I won't say cover up. That's not exactly the word. They're trying to duck and cover. Like, oh, that might have been that, but that's not us. That's not what we believe in. No. But we have the proof. We have the evidence that moms and Proud Boys are interwoven throughout this entire country, because I get to see it on the national level. I see them at our school board meetings talking with the Moms for Liberties people, and we have pictures of it. We see them having Proud Boys sponsor things. So they cannot walk away by putting out a simple, I guess they're in this press release, you know, mode of operation right now. Well, we'll just put out a press release and then nobody will continue to think it's us.
About it. That's very Trumpy. Just say whatever the hell, consequences don't matter because we'll just annoy it away.
Their whole the whole Trump thing, their whole thing is deny and discredit.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They deny it and then they try and discredit the source every single time.
But from our side, we're saying you cannot deny when there is too much evidence to refute that.
It's overwhelming.
So she goes off and she makes this comment at the big meeting of we stand with that mom when there was an issue about Hitler. Her comment should have been, you know what, guys, we really screwed up.
We don't.
And they don't take that approach. I would have more respect for them, actually, if they did that and took ownership for some of this. The gentleman that you're talking about in Philadelphia, that's a whole situation. They should have said, wow, we really messed up. We should have fully vetted. We're sorry.
We will get better.
God forbid, what if some child had been hurt under this process that they had?
Well, they would have blamed that person, right? They wouldn't have said we have any culpability in this. We didn't. It's not like we brought this person into our midst so that they could be a part of our Save the Children movement. Because inevitably, you would think,
saying, "I'm not responsible for that parish. I don't have to worry about that parish. That wasn't me." You can't do that when you have an organization. You are responsible for the organization, be it good or bad. Own it. And I think that's my biggest piece of being angry right now is we are seeing things, I'll call it hit the fan, and they are not once fully owning responsibility for any of it. They're claiming that, you know, people are out to get them. They're out to defame them. They're out to call them domestic terrorists. Well, guess what? No matter what we call you, if you're a good human being and you hear whatever the word is, hate group, extremism group, terrorist group, don't you think you ought to do a little self-reflection on that?
Not wear it as a badge of honor.
And not wear it as a badge of honor. Exactly. And not trying to refute all of these pieces that are falling into the puzzle. So, you know, the piece with the Proud Boys is big. And our membership as a whole is really furious about that because they did not admit their relationship and they are deeply interwoven. And the Southern Poverty Law Center has been supplied with a whole lot of information related to that because the Proud Boys are a designated hate group. They're nationally designated as that. So, you know, it's not, oh, those guys were nice on that night, so we decided to work with them at the school board meeting. And now You're talking about children. You do not partner with the Proud Boys or the Oath Keepers
or the
3%ers.
No, the
These
Proud
are
Boys are like
violent groups.
Right.
We're not thinking
they are
about
actually the Proud Boys are the group, like the extremist group.
We're
of
not
America
thinking
right
about this right.
They're the number one target of like the insurrection and all that stuff. I mean, their leader wasn't even at the
Trump
insurrection.
called out to them. Proud Boys, stand by.
Stand by.
Exactly.
So you have to look at this in context again of how they see things. Moms for Liberty, because that's the mom's place is dealing with the kids, while the daddies go to the Proud Boy meeting and play toy soldier. It's really not that complicated.
Gee, I wonder if we have any evidence that shows the relationships between leadership and Proud Boys members.
Why are you holding back on me, man? That's the material y'all want right there. Future show.
Yes.
Everything needs to be used in its proper place. I don't just throw
like
stuff
out
like there like
because I get a little overzealous sometimes.
Yeah,
I hear you.
But it's all because it's so ridiculous. You just want to see it and know it all.
I know. And like some of these things, I have to look at like 2 or 3 times. Like, did I just read that right?
Yep.
Like 10 minutes will go by. Like I could not have possibly read that right. Yeah. But before we get it, all right. So the last topic we want to get into is, and we're talking about the scandal, the recent headlines. Now we're not talking about the assault. We're not talking about the victim. We're not talking about any of that. We're going to focus on the blatant hypocrisy of it all, because I think that's what's more important. And
that's what we're talking about.
Right. Because they are constantly trying to dehumanize the LGBTQ community to the point. It makes me sick to my stomach to see people like just being punched down on for no reason, just for existing. So let me play this video real quick, and then we'll get into some of the ridiculous stuff here.
Now, Bridget Ziegler is co-founder of the conservative political organization Moms for Liberty. She's a Sarasota County School Board member and was appointed by Governor DeSantis to serve on the board that oversees Disney World's land development.
So we'll be working on that Disney piece next. But the school board piece is what has raised my ire. The people listening or tuning in need to understand that Bridget Ziegler was the chair of the school board for quite some time. And during that chairmanship, she would allow speakers to come to the podium from the public and absolutely defame one of her fellow board members, Tom Edwards, who is a stellar guy. I just love him. He happens to be gay. And so they decided that they would label him a groomer, saying, what are you doing out in those schools reading books to our kids? And Bridget never shut down hate speech as it was unfolding in these meetings. So much so that Tom actually said, you know what? We're not having this anymore. And he walked out of one of those meetings. I believe it was in March, because she wouldn't do anything. And her whole thing was, well, we believe in freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. But here's what gets me. She was sitting there after having a same-sex relationship, and she's letting people defame this man on that claim alone. This man has done nothing that could ever be questioned. He is the most active and school-focused board member that there is in Sarasota. And because he didn't want to, go along with their little plan to make everything these extremist kind of things, he would not support bringing in the Veritas contract with Bridget's little crony to come in and be the consultant. He became a target, and it was relentless against him. And he's actually running right now. And I will help that man to be reelected because he's amazing. And I hope that all of our listeners will look into him as well. It's Tom Edwards. He was actually on the Joy Reid show last night. And he is such a class act. He's not even jumping all over this. You know what his approach is? God, I have such respect for him. He's saying, you know what, folks, this is going to be a distraction. We cannot afford to have distractions. We need to get to the business of running the school system. Hello?
That's not what they want.
It's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. So
none of this is.
Think the biggest hypocrisy I like to point out with this whole Bridget Ziegler scandal is she stood next to Ron DeSantis as he signed the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida.
Yep.
She, through Leadership Institute, actually wrote that bill.
Really? And she was recently removed from their website, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Well, that's a whole nother thing. That was today's news flash, right?
Yeah,
Big
I thought I read
headlines
that
that
before the
she
show.
had resigned from the Leadership Institute, which I've been around for a whole long time. There's resignation because you want to leave somewhere, and there's resignation because you're told that you don't have any other options. So I'm not making any conjecture here. I will let your listeners decide for themselves. But it's kind of ironic that she just decided, what now? She's too busy for this? Who knows? But yes, it was by resignation. She was immediately removed, I believe, as you said, from the website and from postings. But people also need to understand the interwoven nature of the Leadership Institute and Moms for Liberty. They started out and they just opened a new headquarters in Sarasota County, her county. And their sole purpose for the past at least few years has been to bring in people from all around the country and train them to run for school board, to do these school board takeovers.
Well, that's
and
sketchy.
guess who their trainer was?
Who?
The star of the day. Bridget was actually charged with teaching them all how to be on school boards, how to push legislation, how to run for public office. Well, that's so they can't walk away. So Leadership Institute cannot walk away from this either. This was what their purpose was, and they are directly tied to Moms for Liberty. I believe there's some money exchange within there too, but it's all tapped into the whole big picture of privatization and the hand that's in the cookie jar at the upper echelons, these billionaires that know that there's profit to be made. Guess who supports the Leadership Institute? Same folks. And it's all sickening is what it is, because we are talking about children. And it's all because back in the day, folks like Betsy DeVos decided, there's a lot of money to be made there. And so they rolled out this really ingenious plan. They forgot that some smart people like, the three of us are around that aren't going to just let this plan go unchallenged. And, just exposing what's actually happening there. And unfortunately, they have used a brilliant strategy. They have tapped into the fear of parents.
Yes.
Parents nowadays are a lot of sense of guilt, right? They lived through the pandemic with their kids. That was like a whole nother level of parenting that I've never experienced, because my son was still at home. My son was still at home, and it was like, okay, so you're not going to have a social life. Ooh, there's a whole lot. So there was a whole lot of frustration, and they were being fed this, look at what they're doing in those schools. And instead of educating parents on, okay, well, if you didn't like what your teacher, was doing that you saw on the Zoom meeting, here's what you need to do. No, that's not the approach they took. Oh my gosh, we need to get that teacher called out and splashed all over social media and defamed. And the same has happened under the whole book thing.
They're going after things that aren't a thing, that aren't issues, though, like CRT. Is not taught in public
That's
schools.
Manufactured by one man. Christopher Rufo is a strategist, right?
Now,
he actually worked on the Obama campaign. That's how fake these people are, right? He said, I need to come up with something that's going to be this catch-all that everybody can tap into. He saw the writing on the wall of the white supremacist type of feelings brewing up under the former president,
replacement
which
theory.
We saw in
replacement.
There's a training camp for replacement theory out west. And he saw that happening and knew that, I can tap into this. So now, of course, he's, lecture circuit, making his money and the whole deal. But he said, well,
so shameless.
This is pretty extreme. So CRT, right, which has been around for a long time, and it's only been at the graduate law school level. And it is probably the furthest step you can make in your learning about social justice. You have to be pretty open-minded to be able to function under all of that information, right? And it's some tough stuff that we have to do a lot of self-reflection and be strong enough people that we can actually talk about these things. So there is a place for CRT, but he knew that if he could take the concepts of CRT and somehow or another connect those into what we saw happening under the name of diversity in our schools, he could really freak people out with people are coming in with this doctrine of CRT, and it's fake. It is fake. It has been fake since day one.
It's almost like all they have is straw men.
No, I've actually looked I've done research into CRT for a show I did like a year ago.
It's a fascinating
and
it is interesting.
It really is. And I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And it's not about, white people are bad. That's not what the premise of it is.
It
just shows the institutional racism that's still built into
society.
They
can't admit that. They can't admit racism exists.
Honestly, I think, and you're an educator, you might call me out on this, but I think certain premises of CRT should be taught in maybe higher levels of public education, like maybe 10th, 11th, 12th grade.
And you know what? We were on a
trajectory. It's about how society functions.
Do that.
I mean,
you're right.
This whole push with DEI, right? That they also seem to attack. They don't understand what much of this is, and that's the educator in me. That's my cringe response. Is okay? You want to attack SEL? What is it? And people don't know what it is, but they just know that they should be attacking it. And so related to CRT, it is a body of research and a body of study that is, as I said, it's like the top layer of what we should do as a society. And you're absolutely right. It is not pitting anyone against another one, but the reception of that information might be that someone feels threatened, because they're not a strong enough person to understand that this isn't about them as an individual. This is exactly what Mike just said, that there are systemic things still in place. There's redlining still going on. They just don't use a red marker anymore in this country. There are, loan practices that are so biased. And if we can't look at that stuff,
we can't get over
shame on us. Shame on us.
I think the originator, I'm sorry to cut you off, Mike, before I forget my thought, because I do that from time to time. The originator of I think the guy's name was it Derek Bell?
That was one of them.
He did the critical legal studies, and I think CRT branched off. That's where CRT originated from. I could never figure, I could never find out what and when exactly the term critical race theory came into existence.
It's pretty old. Yeah, it's pretty old.
Find like
it's just that no one heard about it because it didn't apply to anyone's life in a contextual way. They weren't
until someone found out that, this sounds like a boogeyman.
This is a scary thing.
DeSantis on his woke terrorizing, whatever that thing was, I started hearing about critical race theory. So now I'd never heard about it before. So I'm the guy who looks into stuff. So I'm like, what are they?
And I'm old enough to know that, growing up amidst all of the stuff that went on in the 60s, if you were woke, you were a good person.
Yep.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with
it. And now it just, it kind of makes me comical that people say, oh, you're just one of those woke people. And I want to go, yeah, and I'm damn proud that I am. But I mean, it's because people also don't understand that, because that's what that side is great at, right? Marketing and branding. They have paid people that are putting this all out there. Rufo started all of the CRT stuff, all of it. And he's proudly claiming that. Then we flip to somebody like James Lindsay. James Lindsay is the person that is pushing all against the LGBTQ plus community. And
they have their little captains of each thing.
Yeah.
But they're not doing it. I don't know that they even believe in these things that they're pushing. They're just taking advantage of the population and hitting them with the fear of the unknown. Of course, no one wants their child to be at risk. Of course, no one wants their child to look at pornography in schools, but they don't tell you the truth in that process. And honestly, I would probably be the first one in that book review committee saying, oh no, we need to get this off our shelves totally. But that's pretty doubtful, because we have adults that are in our high schools. We have 18-year-olds.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm hearing about books being banned for like the cartoon characters. They're for like young kids, teaching kids about some parents are two dads.
Charlotte's Web. I will just say those two words.
Look,
When
Look,
they
I'm
came
just
after
saying,
Charlotte's Web, it
I
turned
say
the
it
corner.
all the time.
What I wanted to say, go ahead, Mike. I keep cutting you off.
Anne Frank's diary. That's it. That's it.
Oh,
it ends
yeah,
there.
really.
The conversation ends when you ban the diary of Anne Frank. You're done. You have no moral high ground.
I like to point this out. Like, if you look up the term woke, okay, we'll just stay with that for a second.
Yeah.
The term, the definition is awareness of social injustice. For some reason, the white
that
can't
doesn't
define
exist.
it. It's 4 words: awareness of social injustices. That's all it means. And in any sense of the word, has awareness ever been a bad thing? And Ted Cruz writes a book. Like, they're so proud of this not being woke. Ted Cruz wrote a book and called it Anti-Woke. Like, to me, if woke is awareness, wouldn't anti-woke and not unwoke mean ignorant? Exactly.
You
so
think?
you're literally declaring your ignorance for the world to see. Good job, guys.
Yeah.
We're so proud of you.
But I will sit down with anyone that wants to learn about woke, wants to learn about some social justice things, because I've done the work to find out. You don't think it was hard for me? I mean, I'm, married, heterosexual, I'm a white Christian member of the United States of America. I have no reason that I have to learn about these things because, it doesn't really support me.
Empathy.
But I want to know exactly. I want to know what our society is doing. And it doesn't mean that I'm a bad person, that I've made mistakes. I've made mistakes a lot through the years.
I've made more than enough. Yeah.
But I have to be the, I don't even know what, it's not the bigger person, but you need to have broad enough shoulders to acknowledge when you're wrong. I mistakenly used, I was working. They're cowards. Yeah, I was working with, and I don't mind saying this because I did learn from the experience. I was working with a group of Black leaders that were opening a school, and we were trying to find my role in the school, right? This little, pushy white girl that was coming in and saying all of her, information about because I was really like the educator on the movement. And I used the term overseer. And I was immediately disliked by some, right? And the trust level was then gone. And I was totally ignorant of that word. I was ignorant of that word. And one of the Black leaders took the time to say, Liz, this is why it's a problem.
Words matter.
Instead of saying, well, I didn't mean it that way, instead of saying, oh, no, oh, no,
Humility.
I just didn't know. I said, oh, my God, I am sorry. I did not know. Now I do know. And of course, I'll never use the word again. Right. And
but people get so defensive if they get corrected. Not everyone's perfect. The fact that they can't accept that different people have different experiences and different groups of people have different experiences. They need in their small, fragile minds to believe that everything's the same and perfect. And if I can't, then you shouldn't. And if you did, then I should. It doesn't work that way. They don't have a fundamental understanding that everyone's experience, no matter how shared, is different. And if you just shut up and stop being defensive, you might learn something. And that simple act of learning from someone else.
Well, and what really infuriates me more about that, Mike, is that this isn't just like an unforeseen thing that has happened. This is scripted in the Moms for Liberty movement. When they met in Philadelphia this summer, the same gentleman that is now accused of rape, and I emphasize the word accused, I'm not saying anything more, but he was teaching people under the Moms for Liberty umbrella to never say you're wrong, never admit that, that you might have gotten something wrong, never apologize.
That's very alpha male.
This is the mindset that is being put through this movement called Moms for Liberty.
And imagine if you teach that
dangerous.
To kids. Imagine if you instill that in children. What kind of despicable little foot soldiers you would be able to create if they're just walking around with a sense of entitlement and privilege, right? Isn't that instilled privilege? You are right. No matter what you say, you are right.
If you're white,
I'm glad you told that story, because there are different levels of ignorance. Okay. They are in the complete blind, willful ignorance level. but there is a level of ignorance because you can't know everything.
I'm ignorant about a lot of things.
It's impossible. But if you learn something and you are wrong and you
Then
immediately
say you're sorry. That's my
right,
whole
like
point
just
and
take
why
a
I'm so
step back.
angry.
They
They
can't
don't seem to be able to say, I'm sorry.
because that
And
would
they
be
have
weak.
inflicted
they're
such
not. They're
harm
not.
across this
They're afraid of
country.
weakness, whatever they
They're not
think that
sorry,
word
though.
means.
But that's strength. That's where they are so wrong.
Mhm.
And they just don't see that they could be wrong because they're being
Nope.
fed all this garbage that they're the only ones that are right.
Yep.
I'm sorry, at my local school board meeting, to have adults stand there and spitting on children because they identify as LGBTQ, and
I
that's
would have
something
ended up
that
in
you
jail.
don't support.
I would have, yeah.
I had to go to my car. And, the kids were fine, luckily, but
Oh, the
Kids are
parent would
stronger
not
than we
what is
have
the
are.
been. I'm
mentality there?
sorry.
How can you say that,
Mhm.
oh, I'm out for the children.
Wait a
I'm
minute.
for parents to have rights. What about that kid's parents' rights?
Well,
Do they have the right to not have their child spit upon?
not when
Now,
you
what would have
dehumanize
happened if
them
the
and those
parent of
kids
that
aren't real
kid,
people.
and I'm just saying as a parent, and I don't condone violence, and honestly,
Mhm.
the only time I think violence is acceptable is when in defense of your family.
Yeah.
If somebody would have spit on my kid, I don't care.
Yeah, that would
I'm
have been the end of that.
sorry. No, no self-respecting parent would
Yep.
let. I mean, and then if that parent would have attacked them, they would have went to jail.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They would have blown
Yeah.
it up like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we didn't do
And there
anything
were
wrong.
some things that went on. I won't go into all the
Oh my
details,
God.
but
I mean, just
I
that
will
makes my
just
blood
say,
boil
what
as a
is
parent.
that
Dear God.
mentality? If you're saying one thing and you're doing the polar opposite of that, if you are saying that you are the movement that is protecting the children, then why are
Mhm.
so many damn children being hurt?
Right.
Well,
Exactly.
they're not the
That's
right
just a
kids.
simple question. That's all I ask of the leaders of Moms for Liberty. If they really are a parent's rights, how are they not seeing that they are not actually representing all parents? And what about
Exactly.
the other parents' rights? So I think it's a lot of false front on everything that they've done at this
Mhm.
point. And I'm tired of it. I'm sick of it. And now that they are, really lighting their own kitchen on fire, I'm going to play that game.
That's why we
Because
want to get rid of
There
gas
you go.
stoves.
I am tired of this
Don't get me
whole
started on
drill
them.
of, oh, those horrible liberals and oh, those horrible LGBTQ supporters and, oh, those horrible progressives. Really? Really? You
Yeah,
need to
okay.
put people
It's all
into this
projection.
pigeonhole that you don't even understand and then make them the bad guy?
Yep.
Mhm.
Guess who
Exactly.
the real bad guy is here, folks that are listening?
I
It
tell them
ain't
to look in the
us.
mirror, but they don't have a
It ain't
reflection.
us. It ain't
All right.
us.
Unfortunately, I think we've actually gone over on time, but that's
Oh.
fine. Is there anything you'd like
Liz was fired
to-
up today.
Oh, I love it. That's why I let it
Like
go.
I said, I'm
hey,
trying to be appropriate while being angry, and that's not
Hey.
always.
See, now
that's
what
not
people
easy
need
for
to
me either.
understand is
It's not.
we
It's not.
get to enjoy Liz outside of being, showing everyone, so we get to hear her use the really fun words.
Woo!
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's a delight. That's all I'm going to say.
And I'm a full supporter of you do everything in the appropriate place at the appropriate time. And sometimes I get a lot of hits, particularly from younger people that, oh, you're censoring what we're doing. Well, it's because I understand strategy. And if you want people to relate to you, you have to be
Mhm.
relatable to them. And there's a whole segment of our population that just has a certain way of thinking, and once you approach something in the wrong method, then you've lost them.
Yeah.
Not only as a
Mhm.
supporter, but you've lost them as a
What-
voter.
You only get,
Yeah,
what is it?
exactly.
You only get one shot at a first impression.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they've blown
So,
it.
we have intentionally kept our noses clean. And I will say that I will end with this, I guess, that, there was a time where they were harassing me constantly. So
Mhm.
so far as even setting up a whole website against me
Oh,
as an
should
individual.
be honored.
And, well,
You got to pay for that domain name.
whatever they want
Right?
to do. And that sort of went away. And then I had some, local people sending me harassing things, and that
Ugh.
sort of went away. And it's been a while now, and I was thinking in my background, geez, they're coming out with all these stories that are now exposing Moms for Liberty. And I thought, do I have anything? So I want to disclose publicly that I got a speeding ticket in a school zone in 1998, I think it was. So if they want, and it was dismissed, by the way, but
that's funny.
I'm not sure that they know what to do with me, guys. I just am truly just an educator and a pissed off one.
Yeah, but you're the scariest thing. You're the scariest thing that they have. An educator that cares about kids.
Because one of the things we wanted to do this episode was compare the two, and I think the important thing to point out is you guys are an educator, and they are not. They're just angry moms.
And there's something to be said for listening to all voices, right? And I have no problem with Moms for Liberty or any of their membership having a voice. This is America. I believe in their freedom.
Free speech,
sure.
But when they attack, and that's the road that they've taken, when they attack our public school system, and then it translates as far down as attacking our kids and our families, no. That is not American, and it won't be allowed. And Stop Moms for Liberty is here to make sure that we are a barrier between their total takeover and, and diminishing them. We don't want them to disappear. We don't want them overnight to change your thinking. We want them to start acting like they are collaborative in our communities. They can't take over. That's
like a democracy.
That's just fascism. They want to take over.
That's it.
So, all right. Well, thank you, Liz, for being on the show. I look forward to doing future episodes with some juicy material. I hope. Don't let me down.
You got to feed him something, or he's going to explode.
I know. I'm gonna. I hear you. My mind already trying to figure out what it is. Like I said, kid at Christmas. So just have to wait.
Well, and there's juicy, but then there's useful. So
fair.
Okay. All right.
You're going to have to help teach us how to take the high road.
Like, I have a lot of personal things that I know about Tina Descovich, but I'm not going to disclose that.
Because you're not going to stoop.
Hint, Tina. Yes, I do have the receipts, Tina. So, I'm sure they'll watch. Being on. Well, I'll let you know if I'm harassed further after speaking out tonight, too.
Then you can let us.
Hopefully, we can let us. The buffer between you and all that goodness. So, all right. Well, we'll talk to you again in the near future. So
thank you guys
for being on the show.
And I look forward to future episodes.
Humbled and always excited to have you on.
Yes.
And a personal thank you too, because that was on my to-do list, and a lot of people were prompting me, oh my God, you need to do a podcast, blah, 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 blah. And I did not have the bandwidth to do it. So we sort of met each other, through different means,
and we're just starting out. So it's cool that you allowed us.
We're just more than happy to help in any way we can.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Yep.
Night.
All right, Mike. Well, that does it for today. You got any closing comments before we go?
God, I want to say the vote thing. But I don't know, man. Just watch the news. Maybe not the mainstream. Just pay attention, because these people, I like to think that we're getting wise to them, that their tricks might not be working. Liz said, more people are going to school board meetings than ever before. I think that's an amazing sign, because there's nothing more boring in the universe than a school board meeting. But they're important because they are willing to go, they are willing to lie, and we all need to be willing to fight them. So just keep up the good fight, get yourself educated on what Moms for Liberty actually stands for, and please check the show notes, check our Instagram bios, and check out Stop Moms for Liberty, because people are fighting back and everyone needs to know that.
Yep. The Linktree information, if you want to get involved for Stop Moms for Liberty, is right on our channel page, as well as our Instagram pages, pretty much everywhere, as well as the comments, the description of the video. Also, their website is in the description of the video. We do have a lot of future projects that we're really excited about that I'm not going to talk about yet, because obviously I'm trying to be a little bit of a surprise. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I have a habit of doing that. My ADHD brain gets going. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Share the video, because we're trying to get the word out there. We're trying just to do the right thing. Like, we don't get paid to do this. She doesn't get paid to do this. We do this because it's the right thing to do. We don't want our country to fall into a fascist dictatorship. So, what else are we going to do? We can use our voices. It's about the biggest power that we have is our words, and we can use them properly, or you can use them for the dark side too. But I think I think people need inspiration, and I think we need to know that there are groups like Stop Moms for Liberty, and there's some other groups that we're going to talk about on future episodes that are out there. But I think they need more recognition, and I think it's unfair that a fascist extremist group like Moms for Liberty gets all this recognition and awards on Fox Nation, while we, the people who really are, suffering the consequences of their actions, have to, do what we can just to get the word out. So every click helps, every like helps. We love all you guys. Thank you for all your support. And as always, we will talk to you soon.